world, and I'm here on the Gold Coast for our big event for Australia. We have the illustrious Sean Brown hiding somewhere here, all the way from the USA. We got Dracy, our head of sales down under, and Joanne from head office, and I'm not even going to attempt to say her last name because I always say it wrong. Sorensen. Okay, there you go. Wilson background. Anyway, so for Bronie's World today, we have our beautiful, amazing, my dear friend, Pharmacist Ben, who we have every second week, and he's going to share with us on the gallbladder and bile to tie in with our event, which is on hydration and low tox living, detoxing and nutrition. Of course, always these things. So, Ben, with no further ado, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bronie. Thank you, Dracy and Sean. And thank you, Ken, and everybody out there. Can you move a little bit so I can see who's out there, Bronie? You're in the, let's see who's out there.
Oh, hang on. Oh,
okay.
I would do a scan around.
Okay, good. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so before I even start here, and this kind of relates to what we're going to talk about, have you guys seen Dr. Wallach's new book?
No, not yet.
Metabolic Syndrome. I bought it right away. And, Doc writes a lot of books. I don't know, he probably has 20 books to his name, maybe more. And of all his books, my favorite book is called Epigenetics. I don't know if you've read that. Yes. Epigenetics is not just about epigenetics. Epigenetics, as you probably know, is the science of the activators of genes. We go through our lives, most of us go through our lives believing it's all about genes, but it turns out that it's really about epigenes, which means it's about the factors that turn the genes on and off. And epigenetics is a science of that. So things like essential fatty acids and the B vitamins and zinc and even the thoughts you think act as epigenetic factors to turn on genes one way or another, to activate genes. This is the science of epigenetics. Doc wrote a book about it called Epigenetics. And the book Epigenetics does talk about epigenetics, but it's really a walkthrough the history of medicine, beginning with the caveman days, beginning with Neanderthals and cavemans and prehistoric folks, all the way up to the modern medical model with stops in between at the Renaissance and the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages and ancient Egypt, et cetera, et cetera. It's a super, super book. My favorite Doc Wallach book. My second favorite Doc Wallach book is this one right here, and that's called Hell's Kitchen. I don't know if you've seen that. And this is just a, you just got to hand it to Doc. Not only is he a brilliant clinician, he's also a brilliant writer who brings in history and anthropology and sociology and chemistry and pathology and clinical medicine and all of these different various subjects and weaves them together to form these wonderful, wonderful narratives. Hell's Kitchen is a classic example of that. And I absolutely love this book because it talks about something called that you've probably heard of today, but back when he wrote Hell's Kitchen, a lot of folks didn't know what this was. It's a condition called metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome, I'm sure you've heard of that down under, although I have to say you guys are a little behind the times because you have free medicine.
We're in the future.
You're in the future. No, when it comes to health, you're a little backwards down there. And that happens wherever you have free medicine because it's very easy just to go get your medicine and not have to understand or work with the body. Nonetheless, metabolic syndrome is becoming a thing here in the United States. I did a talk on metabolic syndrome in the year 2000 or 2001 at the Longevity Convention when Longevity was still kind of a nascent company. Back then, metabolic syndrome was called Syndrome X. And I read about it, and I kind of knew a little bit about it before I started reading about it. But when I read about it, I was like, oh, my God, this is what ties everything together. I did talk about it. Nobody really understood what Syndrome X was back then. Today, we call it metabolic syndrome. And the name metabolic syndrome is very interesting because metabolic syndrome has the designation or the diagnosis or the term has two words to it, obviously, metabolic and syndrome. A syndrome is a health challenge where you have a lot of different symptoms that are linked to some basic causes. That's what a syndrome is. And you have various diseases that are syndromes. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome, for example, AIDS is a disease where you have lots of immune problems, and it's all associated with a virus, supposedly. Then you have leaky gut syndrome. That's where you have a bunch of symptoms that are associated with one cause, a leaky gut. Metabolic syndrome is such a funny name to me, such an ironic name, but yet an instructive name or diagnosis to me, because what it is it's a syndrome, a bunch of things that are associated with one thing. And that one thing is metabolism. Metabolic means metabolism. So it's basically metabolism syndrome. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is everything. Everything in the body. This is everything syndrome. So metabolic syndrome is a disease, not a disease, but a health condition or a health challenge that affects every single part of the body. Everything, from the neurology to the mental functioning, to the skin, to the respiratory tract, to the digestive system, to the bones, musculoskeletal system, the immune system, every single, the cardiovascular system, body fat, everything. Every single part of the body is associated with metabolic syndrome. This is where simplicity comes in. You guys know I'm always talking about simplicity. So if metabolic syndrome is a health challenge that is associated with every single symptom in the body, doesn't it make sense to figure out what is that health challenge? What is that bodily breakdown so that we can address every single symptom in the body? Well, that bodily breakdown that's associated with metabolic syndrome that's said to be the cause of metabolic syndrome is nothing less or nothing more than the second point on the triangle of disease. Metabolic syndrome is a blood sugar issue. More specifically, a dysglycemia issue. Metabolic syndrome is an issue of dysglycemia and it's associated hyperinsulinemia. So emia, what does emia mean, Bronwyn, when you see emia at the end of the word? Emia.
Oh, come on.
Put you on the spot in front of all your friends here.
You did.
Emia means, emia means in the blood.
Yes.
Whenever you hear emia, that means in the blood, right?
Yes.
Dysglycemia means glyce, sugar. Glyce means sugar. Dys means messed up sugar in the blood, messed up blood sugar, dysglycemia. Hyperinsulinemia means emia in the blood, insulin, hyper, a lot of it. And this is what metabolic syndrome is about. It's about number one, elevated blood sugar, and number two, high levels of insulin. Specifically, these high levels of insulin are associated with what's called insulin resistance. Cells stop listening to insulin, so insulin keeps getting pumped and pumped and pumped. Insulin levels go up. Insulin makes things happen. It's a growth hormone. So you have high levels of blood sugar, uncontrolled blood sugar, and you have high levels of insulin, which the body is pumping out to try to address the resistance issue. This is everything, people. This is everything. From this point, you end up with adrenal issues, which means all your steroid hormones, estrogen for women. You're dealing with endometriosis, you're dealing with fibromyalgia, you're dealing with chronic fatigue, you're dealing with problem menstrual cycles, you're dealing with infertility, you're dealing with polyps or cysts or fibroids or whatever. You're dealing with a metabolic issue, a blood sugar issue, dysglycemia. For men, you're dealing with ED, you're dealing with low testosterone, low muscle mass, not a lack of sexual drive or lack of manliness. Guess what? Insulin resistance and dysglycemia. You got cortisol issues, stress hormone issues, blood sugar and dysglycemia and hyperinsulinemia. You got elevated cholesterol, you got dysglycemia, and you've got hyperinsulinemia. Do you see where we're going here? We're about simplicity. By working on this point, you make everything better. Everything. Blood pressure issues, cardiovascular issues, immune issues, skin issues, mental health issues, liver issues, bone issues, everything. By working on this point, and it's in the name, it's metabolic syndrome. It affects everything. Now, the fourth point on the triangle, or the third point, the 3B on the triangle of disease is the thyroid, right? The thyroid is connected to the cortisol. I call it the cortisol or the adrenal thyroid complex. Hypothyroidism, guess what? Boom. Hyperinsulinemia, dysglycemia, metabolic syndrome. When the thyroid becomes suppressed, hypothyroidism, thyroid regulates everything. Thyroid hormone makes skin cells skin, makes bone cells bone, makes heart cells heart, makes brain cells brain, makes immune cells immune. A cell does what it's supposed to do based on the orders or the command it gets from thyroid hormone. When your thyroid is not making enough thyroid hormone, none of the cells work right. None of the cells work efficiently. None of the cells do what they're supposed to be doing optimally. Bone cells don't bone, skin cells don't skin, brain cells don't brain, heart cells don't heart, liver cells don't liver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Under hypothyroidism, which is an end result of too much cortisol, which is an end result of metabolic syndrome or dysglycemia and hyperinsulinemia. Because the thyroid regulates everything, the thyroid will shut down your digestive system, or hypothyroidism will shut down or slow down your digestive system. This will impact the blood sugar system, which will impact the adrenal glands, which will impact the thyroid. And back down we go to the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and the adrenal thyroid complex. And you get this vicious downward spiral. This is where most of us live, especially if you have a health condition. But even if you don't, just aging will put you there. But if you have a health condition, we're living in this triangle. I'm doing a circle. I don't know how to do a circle and a triangle, but there's a way to do it. You go point A, point B, point C, point A, point B, point C, point. We call that a negative feedback loop, where every step shuts down the next step continuously. This is where most of us are. If you have cancer, this is occurring. If you have heart disease, this is occurring. If you have psoriasis or autoimmunity, this is occurring. MS or dementia, this is occurring. Movement disorders, whatever. This triangle is occurring. And the reason the medical model fails, the modern medical model that we all live with fails us, is because it does not address these 3 points when we have come with cardiovascular health issues or hypertension or dementia or autoimmunity or movement disorders, or whatever it is. They are working on the leaves of the tree. The triangle is the soil and the root. You can't get to the leaves. You can't do the leaves without doing the soil and the root. It doesn't work. Even if you cut the leaf off, it's going to grow back distorted or messed up. And that's what they do. They cut the leaves off and they come back because you haven't dealt with the soil or the root. Conversely, if you address those 2 points, not even the third point, because the third point will fall into place once you address the first 2 points, everything will improve. Your arthritis will get better. Your MS will get better. Your Alzheimer's will get better. Your autoimmune disease will get better. Your connective tissue problems, your aging, your wrinkles, your dark spots, everything. Everything. I don't know. I'm trying to say that because I want this to land. I want this to be so easy for you. It's so important that we empower ourselves because we've created a medical model that disempowers us, that makes us feel helpless. Tell me you don't feel helpless when you have a health challenge. Tell me you don't feel helpless when you go to the doctor and he mumbles something to you in Latin, like he speaks Latin, like an old alchemist with a wizard. He doesn't speak Latin. There's no Latin going on. He wants Latin, so you don't know what he's talking about. Tell me you don't feel intimidated. I talk to people every day, literally multiple times a day. They're terrified. They feel intimidated. They don't know what to ask. They don't even say anything because they're so intimidated. This is simple because while the medical model doesn't address the triangle or the first 2 points, forget the third point, just the first 2 points, because we're simplifying here, digestive system and the blood sugar system, guess what? We can do it ourselves because the major mediator, the major factor in the functioning of the digestive system and the functioning of the blood sugar system is what? One thing. Say it, Bronie.
I was going to say us.
What's that?
Us. We are.
It starts with an F. It starts with an F. Food. Food. And I know
That's still us because we put the wrong thing in our mouth.
that's as simple as that. The problem is, as simple as this is, the problem is when we hear food, we hear our mothers saying, eat your vegetables, Bronwyn. Make sure you eat your vegetables. And we cringe and we shut down and we don't want to hear it. but in the interests of the health of our loved ones, our children, our parents, our spouses, and ourselves. It is imperative that we understand the connection between the foods we're eating and digestive function, and the foods we're eating and blood sugar function, and the relationship between digestive function and blood sugar function to everything as mundane as your wrinkles and your sexual performance, to as serious as stage 4 cancer and Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, are horrible, horrible things. It covers everything, everything, everything. And the only thing we have to do to get past this is get over the mental block we have. Because A, we don't want anybody telling us what to eat. Nobody wants that, because it brings back memories of when you're a kid and your mother told you to eat your vegetables, and nobody wants to hear that. Okay? That's number one. But number two, we get tremendous pleasure in a very unpleasurable world and life from food. We get tremendous pleasure. It's wired into us. And there are nefarious forces that have no problem manipulating those pleasures, amplifying and enhancing those pleasures to the point where we become out of control. We can't control the pleasure seeking that we get in response to a drive to the fast food joint. By the way, when you unwrap that McDonald's burger, you tell me it doesn't feel like Christmas. When you unwrap the burger, you don't think that's planned? You better believe that's planned. You hear just the sound of it reminds you of, oh, a present. I'm opening up a little present. Let alone, that's us. What about kids with the little toys and the package? We're programmed. We are being programmed. We're being manipulated. This should anger everybody. When you see McDonald's, you should have an instant reflex that gives them the finger right as you're driving by, because they are benefiting from our suffering. They're benefiting from our misery. And it's not just, I'm using McDonald's as an icon, but Kentucky Fried Chicken is probably worse, or none of them are good. We should not be eating the corporate swill. And I'm not saying that because I'm Mr. Organic Guy. I'm not Mr. Organic Guy. I'm not Mr. Eat your vegetables, make sure you eat only organic, la, la, la. That's not it. It's power. It's power. It's strength. It gives our body the resources to do what it needs to do when we eat better, number one, and less, number two. You will be shocked when you start experimenting, playing around with this, with how little food you need in order to, and not suffering, not, oh, I'm fasting, oh, I can't move, I'm so tired. No, you don't even notice it. You have more energy. With 1,000 calories a day, most people eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. And I'll talk about how that's a problem, how that becomes biochemically a problem. But just know that we have so much control here by the foods we eat. And this is where supplementation becomes so important, because supplementation, vitamins, minerals, aminos, the fatty acids, what we call the mighty 9 essential nutrients, are the active ingredients in food. When you eat a piece of food, even if it's a good piece of food, say a carrot, 99.9%, 99.999% probably doesn't get into your body. About 0.1% gets into your body. That 0.1% is the active ingredients. The active ingredients are the mighty 9 essential nutrients. What supplementation does is, number one, it neutralizes, or it bypasses, or helps us bypass the deficiencies that are built into the foods we're eating just from the soil. So even if you're eating great, you're not going to be able to get the nutrients you need. There's no way you can get the nutrients you need just from eating 1,000 to 4,000 calories a day. You can't get it. You have to eat a bathtub full of almonds just to get a good daily dose of vitamin E. It's impossible to do it. So supplementation allows you to get more activity, more bang for your caloric buck. Food has calories and has nutrients. The nutrients don't have calories. Vitamins have no calories. Amino acids have no calories. Fatty acids have a tiny little bit of calories because they come in oil, but not very much. And plant-derived minerals have no calories. The calories are in the meaty stuff, the stuff you can squish, the stuff you can feel. That's where the calories are. Can't feel the vitamins, but you can feel the calories, the squishy stuff. The more calories you eat, the more nutrition you need. But because we're subsisting on calorie-rich food, because the calories give you the pleasure, not the vitamins. Vitamins don't give you the pleasure. The calories give you the pleasure. Because the calories give you the pleasure, we're eating food that has lots of calories, but not the nutrients that we need. The job of nutrients, the job of vitamins, the job of minerals, the job of amino acids, the job of fatty acids is to help the body use the energy. Is that making sense, you guys? It's a very important fundamental first principle. Basic concept. The energy's in the calories. Calor means heat, right? In Spanish, calor means heat. In Latin, calor means heat. Calories are heat. They're units of heat. And that heat is the result of of energy reactions. Energy. Calories have energy in them. So I'm going to go with this. The nutrients help the body process the energy. When you have enough vitamins, minerals, aminos, and fatty acids, your body can now carry the energy into the chemical reactions. What we've done increasingly over the last 150 years or so is figure out how to get the calories without the micronutrients, the nutrients. So we are subsisting on foods that make us essentially starving, obese people, because the energy creates massive disturbances in the body. The body is a finely tuned system. You think a computer chip is finely tuned in your PC? Oh my God, the tuning in the body to be able to choreograph and regulate and coordinate zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions. I don't even know how many, you can even say it, but I want you to just picture how much of chemical reactions happening a second. Can you imagine how finely tuned and regulated it is? And what we're doing is we're putting energy into it. This creates massive disturbances. And by the way, the body is very good at adjusting. Really good at adjusting. It could take a lot of disturbances. But eventually, all of that energy changes the entire dynamics of the biochemical milieu and machinery and processing that's occurring in the body. We're putting a nuclear bomb in the body with every Big Mac. The biochemical version of a nuclear bomb. Can you imagine what that does? Can you imagine just what a bomb in your house would do? What a firecracker in your house would do? Put a firecracker under your bed, see what it does. That's what happens every time we eat McDonald's, and every time we eat a Snickers bar, and every time we drink a Coke or have a bowl of Lucky Charms, or do all the things we do. Unfortunately, our brain loves calories. Our brain evolved in a very calorie deficient environment, a calorie scarce environment. So we are the descendants of ancestors who survived caloric deficits by having a tremendous love for calories. It's not our fault. We survived because our ancestors loved calories. They got such a beautiful pleasure from calories. And we carry that heredity with us. We carry that through evolution. We can't stop eating calories because they make us feel so good. And you incorporate a culture, a society that is almost designed to make us not feel good, that actually thrives on people's misery. Do you know our culture thrives on people's misery? That's why we buy deodorant. That's why we buy a new fashion, make a new fashion clothes, or there's new fashion models, or I don't know what I'm trying to say, new dresses and new everything every year. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's a whole new
Yes.
fashion statement every year everybody makes. We're trained to be unsatisfied. We're trained to be scared. We're trained and conditioned and programmed to not like to be alive. We're trained that way. That's how most people are. Thoreau, I don't know if you know who Henry David Thoreau was, famous poet. He said, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And he wasn't just talking about men. And this is the state we have. So what we have to do is, number one, we have to be mad as hell and not take it anymore. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, because I'm mad as hell too. And I don't want to take it anymore either. And that's what I do. That's why I do what I do. We have to be mad as hell and not take it anymore. McDonald's is not our friends. I don't care about that clown and the golden arches and all the silly things that hook you into going there. It doesn't mean anything. They don't like us. They want us gone, out of the gene pool. And I'm being a little facetious, but that's the attitude we have to have. And then secondly, we got to control what we eat. And one of the best ways to do it is by using nutritional supplements. The Mighty 90 essential nutrients, the Healthy Start Pack, which has the Mighty 90 essential nutrients, should not be an option. It should not be an option unless you say, you know, I think you're right, Ben, and you can't say I'm wrong. I'm sure everybody is nodding their head. This is obvious. This is plain as the nose on your face, the situation we're in. But say, okay, I'll go to this health food store. I'll do it all myself. Fine, do it. But longevity makes it so easy. It's shockingly easy. If you're spending $150 on anything else ahead of your Healthy Start Pack every year, you're completely missing the boat on what's important in your life. And you don't want to wait until it's too late, because eventually you'll come to that conclusion. Get on the Healthy Start Pack. If you're healthy, that's the time to do it. But if you're sick, or you want to lose weight, or you want to work on your metabolic syndrome, or whatever your health challenge is, get on the Healthy Start Pack. Now, I don't know how many people out there are not, probably a lot of people are distributors already, but you want to tell your customers and your clients and your patients to do that. Now, I just spent about half an hour of my time talking about the philosophical side of things, but in terms of the nuts and bolts, Bronie wanted to talk about bile and the gallbladder, and believe it or not, bile and the gallbladder are key players in this distilling down of the complexity of health and the overwhelming nature of what medicine and what healing and what nutrition and what the body, biology and what biochemistry can all be. Bile is the link between the digestive system and the blood sugar system. Remember, it's a triangle. They lead to each other. Bile is the link for many reasons. Now, when you hear about bile, most people, if they've had health, if they're health coaches or they're taking health classes or whatever they call that thing is. Do you do that down there, down under the health coach thing?
He's certified holistic
Right.
health course, yeah.
Right. So you probably talk about bile, and you probably talk about it as being important for the digestive system for helping what? Bronie, I know I'm picking on you here, but you're the only one I can see.
Oh, look, there's a whole room here. You can pick on all of them.
All right, who wants to say? What is bile? What does everybody know? Here comes Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, there's Ken. He just stood up. Go on, Ken. Your turn.
Everybody knows bile's what?
Well, we know that bile is the key to the whole thing, really.
No, specifically. What is its specific role? Its most well-known role that everybody talks about?
As a digestion.
It breaks down
fats. Yeah, breaks down fats. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I can't really hear Ken. I can't hear him, but I think he said breaks down fats, right?
Yes.
Detergent. It's a detergent bottle.
Big. See?
Okay, I want to make this participatory, but I can't hear anybody, so I can't really do that. So anyway, everybody knows bile helps break down fats, and that's critical. Without a gallbladder, you're running major problems. You can run into potential major problems with absorption of the most important building, growth, and repair substances in the body. Bile is responsible for liberating growth and repair and anti-aging and well-being and survival and joy. from a biochemical perspective, molecules in the body. Bile's responsible for that. Bile liberates the good stuff, all the good stuff. And without bile, that's not going to happen. Or if you have the most important problem with bile, which is sludgy bile. That's the problem with bile, is bile gets sludgy. And you should be saying, well, what the heck's making my bile sludgy? And I will definitely tell you that in a second. But let's just, okay, you shouldn't want to know. Obviously, that's a very important thing. So what happens is, a quick primer on the digestive system. You eat a food, it goes into your stomach. Presumably, stomach acid will activate enzymes and dissolve the food, mush it up. The enzymes do their thing, and various hormones kick in, and blah, blah, blah. The whole thing gets turned into a soupy mass that doesn't look like anything like food. In fact, if you, in imagination, you picture what that beautiful piece of cheesecake looks like when it's kind, you might not eat the cheesecake. You know, it's only cheesecake for a split second in your mouth. It ain't cheesecake after that. It's just a gooey, it's just a soupy mass called chyme. That chyme's acidic because you got stomach acid. So the acid is making that chyme acidic. That acid, that lump of acid, that mass of acid, drops into the intestine from the stomach. And as soon as it drops into the intestine from the stomach, possibly, arguably, the single most important thing that ever could happen in your body from a biochemical perspective happens. Now, I'm going out on a limb because there's a lot of things that are important, but this is certainly one of the most important things. Now, if you're ever baked a turkey or a roast beef, and you had a pan that had a bunch of gook on it, stuck on it, you may recognize this phenomena, or maybe not. Maybe I'll give you a little tip here. You have all this grease and sticky stuff from the roast beef on the pan, and you don't want to clean. How are you going to clean that thing? You got to scrub forever? No. You take some baking soda, you sprinkle it on the grease and the crusty stuff, right? And then you put vinegar on top of the baking soda. What happens? It's called an acid-base reaction, right?
Absolutely.
When acid hits base, fizzes. You can do it, if you just put lemon juice and baking soda, the same thing will happen. That fizz that you're witnessing on your roast beef pan is exactly what happens when alkaline substances hit that acid mass that had just dropped into your intestines. Is this making sense?
Yes.
The alkaline stuff is coming from the pancreas, and it's coming from the gallbladder. The alkaline stuff includes pancreatic juices and bile. And bile hits that, when bile hits that soupy mass, and pancreatic substances hits that soupy mass, and by the way, the pancreas is a major, major player in all this. When that complex of juices, liquids hit that soupy mass, you get a fizzing reaction, and the vitamins are liberated, and the essential fatty acids are liberated. There are minerals that are liberated. There are phytonutrients that are liberated from that, and it's incredibly important. And then, most people know this, but here's what you may not know. Then the bile continues down the intestine. It's done its work. It's liberated stuff. Now it continues down the intestine, and it makes a fork. Some of that bile goes through the large intestine and gets complexed in and gets deposited in what is going to become your stool. And your stool is colored brown from bile. And in fact, if your stool is not brown, to the degree it's not brown, you may have a problem. If it's white, you got a big problem. But even if it's yellow, like pale, not colored right, these are signs, because bile is brown. It gives the stool the color. I mean, you have a bile problem. And here's where it becomes super cool. bile is not merely an by the way, that liberation process is called emulsifying. That's the fancy way, a fancy term. The emulsification of the emulsification properties of bile don't just affect food. They also affect poisons, drugs, old hormones, cellular toxins. And as that bile is going through the intestine and coming out your body, it's clearing your body out. It's eliminating old hormones. It's eliminating heavy metals and toxins and poisons. It's eliminating anything that the body is trying to get rid of. The body uses bile as a excretory detoxification liquid. It's not just for digestion, it's for detox. Which is why if you have a gallbladder problem or a bile problem, you will be it will show up on your skin. It's one of the first things that happens to people who have bile problems and gallbladder problems, especially cystic acne. Have you ever seen people who have really horrible acne when they get older around the sides of their faces, all rashy? Bile, toxic bile that's not doing its job. And if you had a gallbladder taken out, you're in big trouble from detox alone. From detox alone. If you're on drugs and you had your gallbladder on, you're carving years off your life. Guaranteed. If you're on drugs plus you don't have a gallbladder, which a lot of people do. A lot of people don't. One of the things that happens, I forgot to tell you, there's a fork, right? Some of it's getting eliminated, but some of it's not. Some of it is going back to the liver and the gallbladder. It's circulating. It's called entero. Entero means the intestine. Hepatic, that means the liver. Hepatic means the liver. Circulation. Enterohepatic circulation. Liver, intestine, liver circulation. It's circling. Some of it's going out. How cool is this? Some of it's going out, cleaning out the poisons, and the body's conserving. But here's the problem. When there's lots of toxins that the bile's trying to get rid of, it can't do its job effectively, and it starts to build up, and because of enterohepatic circulation, it gets more and more and more.
That's not cool.
No, it's not cool. It's horrible. And so many people are dealing with this. So many people are dealing with this, especially women, because one of the most important molecules or chemicals that gets eliminated is estrogen. And if your estrogen is not getting eliminated because your bile's not doing its work, you are in big trouble, including for so many horrible, horrible things, including cancers, including all the reproductive cancers. And what's worse is in the small intestine, you're not supposed to have any bacteria. The bacteria live in the large intestine. They're not in the small intestine unless your biochemistry is all whacked out. And there's many reasons for that, especially, guess what? Food.
Yeah, the big
Your
culprit.
bacteria always comes to food. Your bacteria that should be in the large intestine will now grow in the small intestine. That's called, what's that called? Small intestine bacterial overgrowth. One of the major causes of SIBO is sludgy bile. When you have SIBO, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, something very, very horrible happens. A lot of horrible things, but this is very fascinating horrible. Kind of perverted, I guess, in a way. I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating. There are bacteria in the small intestine that can reactivate estrogen. So estrogen's trying to get out of the body, but there are bacteria when you have SIBO that can turn on estrogen and reactivate it, leading to all kinds of estrogenic health issues. Estrogen is a horrible substance if it's left in the body too long. It's so powerful. It's the most powerful of all the hormones. It makes things grow. And this is called estrogen dominance. And it's why women are 2 to 3 or even 4 times more likely to have their gallbladder taken out. All gallbladder issues are female issues largely. or men who are making lots of estrogen. But there's more. Bile is a key player in blood sugar control. They only discovered this about 30 years ago. Bile helps the body process sugar. So when you're not making enough bile, now your hormones are all whacked out. You're toxic. You're not breaking down your foods. Your digestive, you're missing a key building, thriving substances, and your blood sugar is whacked out. All the bile, it's all starting at the bile, not really starting at the bile because it starts with the bacteria, but then it jumps to the bile. The bile is at the ground floor. So I hope I'm making a case for you about the importance for bile.
Absolutely.
If you have gallbladder removed, you are going to have to be very, very serious about your health for the rest of your life. You're like a heavyweight fighter in the ring with one arm tied behind your back. You're now deficient. And this is why Dr. Wallach, God love him, I try to be a little bit kinder, but he says dial MD for murder. You know, and because he sees this. This is so, it makes you so angry when you see it because people, did I say anything complicated in there? Did I say anything you need a medical degree for? You need to go to college for? You need to study biology and chemistry? This is as simple as the foods we're eating. And I'm giving you some good chemistry here too, and some good biology. It's not complicated. What do? What's the answer? Number one, go ketogenic. Do you guys know what the ketogenic diet is?
Well, yes.
It's a low calorie, low carb diet. Go ketogenic. Number two, use nutritional supplements that help your body process sugar. Number three, use digestive support, including Dr. Ariaza's liver cleanse. It's a wonderful bile cleansing product formulation. Anybody who has hormone issues, skin issues, menopausal issues, testosterone issues, all the things we just talked about with bile. Dr. Ariaza's liver cleanse should be called Dr. Ariaza's bile support, because that's what it does. It supports clean bile. What's that?
Can you still do that if you have had your gallbladder removed?
Yes.
If you had your gallbladder removed, yeah, you could definitely do it. Absolutely, you could do it if you had your gallbladder removed. By the way, if you've had your gallbladder removed, this is why doctors don't like you to, actually, you know what? Let me take that back. If you had your gallbladder removed, you want to be a little careful because it's very fatty. It might be hard for you to process all that fat. I'm not sure I don't know that I would do that. I have to ask Dr. Ariaza that, but my hunch is, thinking about it, there's a lot of oil that's involved. And if you don't have the gallbladder, you're going to have a problem with oil. I'll ask Dr. Ariaza that. Dr. Ariaza. That's a good question. But the reason the MDs feel like it's okay to take a gallbladder is because you're always making a little bit of bile. You're always going to make a little bit of bile because the liver, the way it works is the liver makes the bile and it sticks it in the gallbladder. Gall means bile. Bladder means bag. It's a bag of bile. And it concentrates the bile. It makes the bile dense and concentrated. Without a gallbladder, you're still making some bile directly from the liver. But the problem with that is that creates a constant flow of bile that can irritate the intestine. And this is where chronic diarrhea comes from. People who have chronic diarrhea oftentimes have irritated intestines from either dysfunctional bile or irritated bile or irritation in the intestine, or a steady stream of bile is coming in after you have your gallbladder removed. So you're always making a little bit of bile. You're not going to make zero bile. However, using Dr. Ariaza's liver cleanse, not if you're, and I'm going to have to look into that with the gallbladder after gallbladder's been taken out, but if you're just all your parts, Dr. Ariaza's liver cleanse, using certain herbs before meals, things like dandelion greens, arugula, horseradish, things that have a kind of spicy, stimulating quality to them, starting your meals off with them. Parsley, starting your meals off that way. And then also making sure you're hydrated to get to what you guys were talking about. And
Yep.
then, and I'll just finish this up here. I hope I made a very good case for bile and bile support and digestive support. And don't forget the I-26, because SIBO plays a role in many of the problems associated with bile. And before I even forget, and then I'll wind it down with these last 2 points. Before I even forget, when it comes to bile, if you are on medication and you've had your gallbladder out, see if you can find out if your drug is removed in the bile. Because if it's removed in the bile, you're going to have to play with your dose accordingly, because you're not going to be detoxifying or eliminating that medication as effectively if you don't have a gallbladder, or if you have sludgy bile. And then also one more thing, sludgy bile is where gallstones come from. Sludgy bile is where gallstones come from. And by the way, if you had gallstones, I can understand why you would you want your gallbladder taken out, because they're miserable. They're sharp and they cut, and it's just awful, awful, awful pain. And that's why a lot of gallbladders are removed, or the fear of gallstones. But gallstones are a sign of super saturated bile, sludgy bile, that's been collecting dirt as it's going through its enterohepatic circulation. And what's the dirt? Food allergies, food intolerances, medications, old hormones, all of the things that come from just basically 21st century living, which are modifiable all modifiable lifestyle factors. All right, and then the last thing I was going to say is, when Bronie asked me to do this talk, she said, we're going to talk about bile. She goes, can you make sure hydration and detoxification is in there? And I was like, yeah, no problem. Bile requires hydration. Healthy bile has to be liquidy. And bile is your major detox fluid. Bile is your major detox fluid. So number one, bile depends on effective hydration. Good bile depends on effective hydration. And number two, bile is the quintessential detox fluid. Healthy bile means healthy detox. And thank you, Australia.
Well, thank you, Ben. That was absolutely awesome. So we're not going to have questions?
No, we're gonna just thank him and we're continue our meeting.
There you go. So
I didn't hear. Who's that there?
It's Dracy.
Hi, Dracy.
We're gonna say thank you so much, and we'll continue the questions on the next time you're together. We'll
Sounds
gather.
good. 5:30.
You betcha.
I'll see you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
all right. Well, just ended how I do, as I say here in Bronie's world. So I ask you all to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you're taking care of your bile, then you too will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. God bless you all. Catch you again tomorrow here in Bronie's world.
Also, I forgot one more thing, Bronie. Just tell everybody. Bile salts, the ultimate enzymes have bile salts in them.
Yes.
I forgot to mention that. All right. Bye, everybody.
Well, hi everyone, it's Bronie here again for another day in Bronie's world, and I'm here on the Gold Coast for our big event for Australia. We have the illustrious Sean Brown hiding somewhere here, all the way from the USA. We got Dracy, our head of sales down under, and Joanne from head office, and I'm not even going to